Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the indie publishing industry. Back again is my co-host, Jason LaVelle. Say hi, Jason.
Hi, everybody.
That's super creepy. And our guest for today is the lovely Casey Hayes. Casey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Casey Hayes. I'm the author of the Arrows Flight series, and I'm glad to be here today.
We're glad to have you. Now, Casey, you write in the dystopian genre, correct?
I do. Yeah.
What drew you to that genre?
Well, you know, it's a funny story because I didn't even really know that that's what I wrote when I wrote my first book. Somebody had to tell me. They had to say, "Oh, you've written a dystopian novel." And I was like, "What's that?" Because I had no idea. And so that's how I got drawn into the genre, I guess, is because somebody told me that's what I wrote. So there you go.
Now, your first book is called, is it Breeder is the first one?
Yeah, Breeder's the first book. It's a story about a girl who, she lives in a society after a world war has decimated the earth. In this society, they believe in fate and that fate chooses your destiny. So she's destined to become a breeder for the village. And it's one of the most prestigious duties that you can have in the village, but she doesn't want to do that. And so she defies her fate to follow her heart, basically.
So she doesn't want to be the brood sow. She wants to make her own way.
That's right. Essentially, she doesn't want somebody telling her what she can do or not do with her body. Okay. She thinks she should be the one to have that choice and nobody should force her into something. And that's her initial belief, and it develops into even something stronger than that by the end of the whole series.
Okay. Sounds very interesting.
Now, how many books are in that series right now?
3 full novels, and then I just published a novella. It came out in September. And I'm planning to write 3 more novellas. All of these novellas are standalone stories, but they do link back into the series. So the novella is actually my main character's best friend. It's her story. And once my main character left the village, because she does leave the village at the end of the first book, we don't know what happens after that. And the only way we're going to know is if someone else who stayed behind tells the story. So that's what the first novella is. It's basically that.
What got you started with writing to begin with?
I've always loved to write since I was a kid, but I didn't really start thinking about it seriously until I was a teacher. I taught English literature for 11 years at a high school, and during that time frame, the YA genre became really popular, and I started sharing a lot of the books from other authors with my students. And one day I just thought, you know, I love to write. I write all the time. I've just never published anything. And I said, I could do this. I could write a book that my kids would love. And so my very first novel is called The Cadence, and it's a standalone supernatural contemporary romance. So I wrote that and published that in 2012 because I just wanted to prove, I guess, that I could do what these other authors were doing. So I did it.
Now, did you then share some of the work that you did with your class?
I did. In fact, the first book is dedicated to one of my classes, the class of 2009. They were really excited about that. You know, they were like, wow, she wrote this book for us. So that was fun.
That's sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I noticed you're very, very big in the Band of Dystopian Authors Facebook group.
Yeah, I've been with that group since I was like one of the first 50 members in the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
So.
Yeah, that's a really cool group of people. We love it.
Right. I connected with Cheer before they ever did Band of Dystopian at all. I connected with her through Goodreads. When she and ER started that group, she just invited me automatically. That's how I got in from the very beginning.
So when did you publish your first novel, Casey?
My first one was published in November of 2012. And at that time, I had a publisher.
Okay.
So I didn't start out as an indie author. I was with an independent publishing company, but I wasn't doing it on my own in the beginning. So they kind of got me started. And honestly, I'm so grateful that I came out with that book first, because that was kind of the novel that I learned to be a professional writer through.
Okay.
And I'm really glad I did that first, kind of got the kinks out before I started my series. It made all the difference.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I have 2 series that are kind of in the early stages right now. They both have 2 books out. I'm curious, for somebody else that has a series, and I know Katie has quite a few series as well, How do you find
Right.
that the series itself sells to people, or what kind of response do you get beyond that first book? Do you find that it's harder to market the sequels, or how do you go about doing that?
Well, the main thing that I do really is I really promote the first book in the series more than any of the other books. And that's how I get my readership started. I'll do like a free promo on Amazon once a month.
Okay.
And that helps to draw people towards the series itself. And luckily, most people have said once they read the first book, they have to read the next one. And then
Okay.
the second book has a huge cliffhanger, so then they have to read the third one. So that's what I do. I spend a majority of my time promoting book one.
Okay. I'm curious. You said that you usually do a free promo about once a month on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you part of the Kindle Select, Casey?
I am. And the Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
I just started that actually. I was real hesitant to do that for all of this time until I took a marketing class with, I don't know if you guys know Jeff Cheney. He's the one who convinced me to try this
Okay.
Kindle Unlimited for just a little while and see if I liked it. And he guarantees that's how you make your money. And you have to do this promotional every month, a 2-day promo every single month for just your first book only. And then you also promote it to other promo sites. And he guarantees this will be a way that you'll start drawing in some money. And
Okay.
all I really want to do right now is support my writing career. I don't care to get famous off of this or rich or anything, but I would like to be able to continue writing.
Well, for
Definitely.
sure. And
So,
I guess my question is that I know that you get only a certain number of free days that you can do every 3
Right.
months through the Kindle Select, and I thought it was only 5 days.
yeah. So you can do 2 months for 2-day promos, and then your last month you do a 1-day promo.
Okay.
So you
okay.
just basically use them all up. You need to use them all up.
Okay, and this is something that a lot of authors wonder about because there's so many different book promotion sites and paid versus unpaid, and just sharing things around Facebook and Twitter, all that good stuff. But so
Right.
you're doing 2 free days a month with the first in your series, which seems smart. Now, how are you getting the word out on that? What sites are you using to promote that?
Well, I use Facebook as my biggest promotional tool, really, through my
Okay.
author page. I have a fan club also, and I'll do a lot of the promotions through there and ask them to share it with their fans and with their
Okay.
followers and, with other people on Facebook. I also will pick every month, I'll pick a different promotion site like FreeBooksy, ebook lister, the Choosy Bookworm, the Busy Librarian. There's all sorts of promotional sites that you can use. And I just let them know, Usually I'll pay $20 or $25 for a promo that month so
Okay.
that they will feature me. And that's how I get the word out that I'm having a promotional. And the
Okay.
nice thing is that like this last time that I did it, I did my two-day promotion, and the very next day I sold 54 books after the promotion ended.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's where it comes in handy because people still want your book even after the
Yeah.
promotion ends.
And you also answered another one of my questions is that, are you paying to promote free books? Which
Right.
to some people seems a little crazy because, you're not going to make any money off that, but that's also how you're going to get that word out there. Now, do you do a
Right.
lot of paid advertising on Facebook as well? And do you find that works for you?
No,
No?
I've never paid for a single promo on Facebook.
Okay.
I just don't think it's worth the money. I don't really feel like you get much out of that.
Okay.
But these other ones, like this last time I promoted through the Choosy Bookworm, and I had for my free promotion the first day, I had 900 downloads.
Wow.
Overall, I ended up with 1,700 downloads by day 2, and I sold 54 books.
You are
Wow.
kicking
top of that.
ass on that. I'm gonna have to look into the Choosy Bookworm. No, that's fantastic.
For sure. I actually use the Choosy Bookworm, which cost me $25 for a promotion, but it's a guaranteed promotion, and they feature your book on their page. You can pay for one that features you on their website page and on their Facebook page and on the actual website or on Twitter.
Okay.
They have different promotions that you can purchase. There's one that's called Forwards that's free promotional. It's FOREWORDZ, Forwards.
Okay.
And they'll do a free feature for you. But you don't want to use them every time because you'll keep hitting the same readers.
Gotcha.
That's why you want to find different promotional sites to use.
Gotcha. And I found that I think it was an audiobook promotion that I was doing, where I was giving away free audiobooks, and I had posted about it in the band of dystopian authors and fans, and I got a great response. But what I find that, like you were just saying, that if you post too many times in those same spots, it's like, okay, well, these people have already read this, you got to expand a little bit. So, I think that's a challenge for a lot of us indie authors, at least for me, maybe not for Katie, since she's like balling over there in Las Vegas.
I know.
Hitting up the Bellagio every other day. And
no, but you're right. The promoting to the same spot over and over again, eventually you've either killed your audience because they're sick of hearing about it, or they've already read it, so you're not getting a new reader, which was the goal.
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. So you just kind of have to move around, find new audiences. That's really helpful. Even if you can find book clubs on Facebook that you can promote to, that's helpful too. And I've sold a few books doing that, not quite as many, through that. But I've gained some fans that way, and people who've, liked my Facebook page because they saw my ad. And then they'll sometimes ask to join my fan club. So the fan club's growing. I think we have 150 awesome. Members now. So yeah, so that's fun.
Speaking of Facebooks and fan clubs and things like that, you run a reader group. Is that correct? Where you're teaching people how to do readathons?
It's called Reading Marathon Crash Course. In there, we do have a document posted that gives you like the rundown of how to do a reading marathon. And so you can go in and just read the document, and it gives you, pretty good overview of how we handle it. I was the first author to do a reading marathon on Facebook. My fans, I gained a lot of fans, and I got so many reviews and sold so many books through that reading marathon. But I tell you guys, it's a lot of work, and it takes up a lot of time if you want to do it right. But after I did mine, then some of my fans convinced Sarah Noffke to do one. So Sarah did her reading marathon, and then she turned it in her group where she had the marathon. She turned it into a marathon group where other authors could sign up to do marathons in it. So she kind of took the lead on that, and that's her thing now. But I just want y'all to know it was my idea originally. I just didn't want to do that much work,
No, I know you said you could find the information on how to do that on the website, but could you kind of briefly explain to us what a reading marathon is?
Sure. First of all, you have to have a complete series, because what you're doing is reading straight through a whole series with your fans. And you start with book one, you give them a reading. It's kind of like a read-along, so you're going to give them like a reading schedule. And with my first book, we read 5 chapters a day. It took about 7 days to get through the whole book. In between, I took a break for a week. My marathon actually lasted 5 weeks. So we did a book for a week, took a break for a week, started the next book, took a break. And during the marathon itself, I had guest authors come in. I had like 12, I think, guest authors, and Katie was one of them, actually, that came and shared their works and their books and stuff with my group. Some of the authors who have done their reading marathons have, during the reading time, they just do the reading, and then they'll have the authors come on their off weeks, which is, I think that's kind of smart, actually. There were just things I wanted to do during the off weeks, so I chose to have my authors come during the reading. But, you can do it either way. Anyway, the main thing is that you have to make sure that you've got some giveaways that you're going to be doing during the marathon, that you're going to be playing some games, lots of discussions. We would have spoiler alerts and things like that to get my readers actually talking about the book. And for me, what's been most successful is being a presence at the marathon is so important. Your readers need to know that you're there, that you're listening to what they're saying, that you're giving your input. A lot of them actually enjoyed the books better, I think. It was more enjoyable to them because I was there, and I was able to kind of explain things sometimes when they were like, "What's up with that?" Then I would be like, "Let me explain." And I think that made a huge difference in how much they enjoyed the book. One thing that we teach in the crash course is that you need to make sure that you have a couple of hosts, like co-hosts, to help you run it, because it's huge, and there's no way that you would have the time to do it all yourself without help. I had 2 awesome co-hosts that were extremely creative and were able to come up with some of the games and those kind of things, and the discussions and everything on their own. So it kind of gave me a break every once in a while. And we had a blast. So
okay. Well, it sounds intriguing. Now, how do you get people to sign on to be a part of a reading marathon? I mean, how do you attract people to this?
In the beginning, what I did was I started an event in my fan club, and I invited people to come to it. And we probably invited 900 people or something like that, and about 150 actually came. But the really active ones, I would say that we maybe had about 25 that were extremely active. A lot of them read the book, but quite a few of them were just there every day and just wanting more, and constantly wanting to talk about the book and talk about the characters. And by the end of the marathon, they were like, we feel like we know these people. They're like real people. And of course, that makes an author's, heart happy. Say,
of course.
You think my people are real. This is awesome. So that was so cool. But what Sarah decided to do instead was to start, she actually didn't do hers as an event. She did it as a group. She started it as a group. So she has about 1,000, maybe more people actually in the group now.
Wow.
So now there's already an audience there.
Okay.
And when authors come and join, and I think she's booked out until the end of 2018 or something.
Wow.
Now, because it became so popular. But now you already have an audience in place when you get there. And I check in there every once in a while, and it's very active. Those readers are reading those books and talking about them. And again, some of the authors are much more active participants, and some aren't. And so it just depends. Sometimes some of the readers will lose interest if the author's not there,
okay.
Making an appearance.
Gotcha.
So,
I've talked about that before on other shows, how being there and being a real person is the majority of selling your brand as an author. You actually have to interact with people if you want to sell them your book.
Right. And I honestly think that's one of the reasons I got so many 5-star reviews during that marathon, was because I was there and they got to know me as a person, and they gave me 5 stars, which I'm like, I'll take them, But like I said, when you're there and you can actually talk through the story with them and make them understand things that maybe they were like, why'd you do it that way?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, I get it now, 5 stars. So that was nice.
No, I love that idea, because every once in a while I'll get a review on something and they'll say, oh, well, I'm giving this 4 stars. I love this and this. There's this one part that I didn't get, and I'm like, oh man, if I could just have told you what I was doing there. And
exactly. If only I could talk to you, buddy. That's what you want to say. So I know. So that was nice. And I love talking about my characters. I love them. And so it was so nice to have a conversation about Kate or Justin or whoever it was, and say, let's talk about him today. What do you guys think? So, and they tell you. They're honest, brutally honest. So,
It sounds like something fun to do. I can see how it could be a very big undertaking, and you would need to have that group of, personal assistants to help you run it.
Oh, yeah. You definitely need that. And what we did, and I didn't tell you this part, but I think Sarah does this too, but what I did was I formed a secret group for just me and my admin team.
Oh,
so there were just the 3 of us in this group, and it was called
easily communicate.
Yeah, it was called the Arrows Flight Reading Marathon admin group or whatever, and we did all of our planning in that group. We would post pictures that we were going to use and games, and we would every day at the end of the day to get ready for the next day, we would do a schedule. So, and it was Mary and Cherie, they were my admins, and so I'd say, okay, Mary, you're going to do this at 9:00, and then Cherie is going to do this, and then I'm going to pop in with this at this time, and we're going to use these pictures, and we just got it all figured out. And they were so good about creating their own graphics and things, and they'd throw it in there and say, what do you think about this? And I'd be like, use it, it's perfect. So I've never met these 2 ladies in person, and they're 2 of my best friends now. That's what was really cool about the marathon, was I got to know Cherie and Mary, and I love those girls. In fact, I dedicated my last book to them because
that's so sweet.
They've been with me from the beginning of this whole thing. So, and like I said, I've never met them in person. I'd love to one day. We are all connected through that right.
Band of Dystopian Authors group. That group is fantastic. I mean, you just can't sing enough praises about it. Everybody in there is super friendly, super active too.
They're awesome. That's like my favorite place to go.
I think that
I haven't been recently because I haven't been promoting my dystopian works lately. So I kind of feel like I've missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
Right? More dystopian, Katie.
There you go.
I feel like
as soon as I'm done with the wolves.
No more.
No more wolves. I like those.
I feel like your level of organization is so far beyond what I can even comprehend, Casey, that is like you should see me trying to get my children to school and then back from school.
And you know what's so funny is in reality, like as a writer, I don't have an outline or anything. I'm completely a pantser.
Pantser, huh?
So I don't know where that part comes from. I guess it's just because when I'm going to present it, like this marathon, we were presenting it to the public and I was like, it's got to go off without a hitch, so I'm just, I want everything to be planned ahead of time. Yeah, I was a teacher, so I'm organized that way. But when it comes to sitting down and writing, I let my characters tell the story. I'm like, whatever y'all want to do, I'll follow. Just tell me where to go. So
yeah, I hear you. I mean, I think that I've always been a pantser, but at the same time, if I'm writing something and an idea pops into my head for, I'm gonna tie this in later this way, I'll quick jot it down. I have a little file on my Google Docs that's just called crazy shit, and it's just any bizarre idea that I come up with, or sometimes my wife adds stuff to it if she has a weird dream or something.
Yeah.
And if I get scene ideas for later on, I'll definitely jot it down. But I feel like every time I've actually tried to outline something, it kind of turns out flat, and it drives me nuts. Some people can do it, and some people, it works really, really well for them. But I'm just not one of those.
Right. What I've learned that I have to do is after I finish writing a book, I have to do a timeline. Yeah. So that, because especially with this series and with the novella that I just wrote from the series, it was so important to know timeline because my whole entire series is only a few months long, believe it or not. I don't even think it's a year of time that passes from the first page to the last page of my series. And so I had to do a timeline to figure out, because I have, it's breeder. I have pregnant women in my stories. And so I'm like, okay, you're only pregnant for 9 months. So I have to make sure that I'm not having something last longer, than that, because it just wouldn't be realistic. So I've got tons of timelines, but I don't have any outlines.
What about you, Katie? How's your outlining?
Oh, I'm a total pantser. I always have a general idea of what I want the story to, what to happen in the story. But as far as just letting it happen, it's just as I sit down and write, I just let the words go.
Most of my writing happens in my head. And people are having conversations in my head and things are happening and all of a sudden something's happening and I'm like, I guess I'm going to write that. I wasn't going to go that direction, but I guess that's what we're doing. So,
it's more fun that way because you can experience the story firsthand, as a reader would.
I agree. And I love that. When you can write a scene that makes you cry, you've reached a new level. Mm-hmm. And I think it's harder to do that with an outline, but I'm not going to knock the people who use outlines because I know some people do, and they're brilliant writers, and they have to have an outline. So it's just your preference.
Yeah. You got to write the way the words work for you.
Right.
And I think we talked with, I want to say it was Amber earlier.
Yeah. She's an outliner for sure.
Very meticulous outline. It was a beautiful outline, and I was just kind of in awe when she showed it to us. But it's a different style. It has to work for you.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And there's character-driven stories and there's plot-driven stories too. And I'm drawn more towards character-driven stories because that's the kind of writer I am. But I know other people just like plot. They don't really care to get to know the characters as much as they want the action and the plot. And I had one author one time she was asking me about that one time, and I told her, well, I let my characters tell the story. So characters will pop in, just new characters will all of a sudden be entering the story. And she told me I do it completely opposite. She said, I write my whole plot and then I take auditions. And I thought, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, it was
Well,
funny.
they used to say you write resumes for your characters to help to get to know them, so they're just submitting their resume in.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how she thinks, that's the way her brain works. For me, I sort of kind of just like somebody sneaking into my story, and then they become like one of my most favorite characters among my readers. And it's like, wow, and he just snuck in.
Or you write a character that's intended to die and they become one of your favorite characters. So now you have to change the whole story so that they live.
Right. Or you kill one off that you were never intending to kill off. There's that too. So for sure.
I wrote a book called The Dark of Night, and it's just kind of a paranormal horror kind of deal. And I had added a character kind of as a joke, inspired by someone that I know. And so this character is very similar to the other one, while still remaining fictional, of course. But I ended up falling in love with this character, so I had to write him into the entire book. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that kind of worked out, You never really know what these characters are going to give you. You might have that idea in your head, like Katie said, like you said, where they're just popping in for something, or maybe they're, intended to die, but they just take you to a whole nother place. It's special. It's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. I enjoy that a lot. I think I really like it when my readers end up liking somebody, and maybe just a minor character or something, and I'm like, really? That's who you like? But it's kind of cool because it means that even with your minor characters, you did something right, because you made them real. You fleshed them out. And that's super important to me. I want my readers to say, I really wish these people were real so I could meet them. That's how much I like your characters. So
that's awesome.
That's the greatest compliment right there when they say that. So
yeah, that's true. Well, it's kind of like what you said last week, Jason, about was it reading Twilight? You were kind of sad you couldn't hang out with the characters anymore.
Yeah. I
know it.
When you read a long series like that, and you've invested months of your life sometimes into these characters, and it's like, wow, they feel like they're a part of me, and I don't want to let that go.
Yep.
I used to be a big fantasy junkie when I was in, middle school and early high school. I used to read Piers Anthony. All of his books were really whimsical, really fantastic. And I would just fall in love with these characters, and they would keep popping up in different novels, only, not quite the same timeline, but I just be like, oh my gosh, I know who that is. I know that person. And it was just such a cool feeling. So, I think that having good character-driven drama is the way to go.
Right.
As long as there's vampires and killing, too.
As long as there's vampires and killing.
I've always been more of a wolf girl than a vampire girl myself.
I've been the opposite, but I just recently kind of converted over to the wolves.
Well, the Twilight story, I was Team Jacob the whole way. I was never an Edward fan because I'm the werewolf. That's my thing.
Wow.
He smelled like a dog, though. He was gross.
I love dogs. Love dogs.
Well, so do I, but I don't like the way they smell.
Oh.
Well, what was it? It was Madison said that if you were reading the books and you were anything but Team Edward, you were wrong. But in the movies, they really made Jacob out to be super cool.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He was like a poacher. He was trying to steal Edward's girl.
Well, she really should have. She should have been with him because you know what? Because she stayed with Edward, she had to change. And I've always thought that was a really bad message in that song that you had, or in that book, that you had to change for a guy. In order to be with a guy, you had to change.
Oh, here's the.
She wouldn't have had to do that had she stayed with Jacob, and he made that very clear to her, and she did not go with it.
That is not how it went down, even close. What did Edward tell her? He would love to spend her entire lifetime with her just as she was.
I know, but then
she wanted to change.
But then
she wanted it.
After he told her that she smelled like music to him, like she was a symphony, and then whenever she turned into a vampire, all of a sudden he was like, oh, I'm so glad that smell is gone because it was so annoying. But that is not what he said in book 1. Ooh. And I'm sorry, Stephanie Meyer should have gone back and looked at her notes. Because she ruined it. The whole romance was gone after that. I was so irritated. Let me tell you.
I feel like you haven't even read these books.
I've read them. I've read them several times. Nope. No way.
All right,
Seriously,
we're gonna
though.
put you two in separate corners now.
We're going to take this up on Facebook, damn it.
All right, let's do it. I'm up for a challenge.
I might lose some fans here soon.
But that just proves our point that the characters, you really fall in love with those characters. They do become real.
That's right. They do.
And if you've done your job well enough, you will have people debating on the internet about them.
I feel like I just recently read a story and I really fell in love with this character, Craig. And then the author went and unjustly killed him off for no reason whatsoever. He was doing nothing but being a good guy. Yeah, I was pretty sad.
You know, there's two sides to every story. And Craig, you know.
We never got to hear Craig's side.
He had some dirtiness in his closet.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, well, I need to eat some fruit snacks to make myself feel better about myself now.
Aw, poor Jason. Clearly, we touched on a subject that's very sensitive.
I know. He's getting picked on now.
I'm used to it. So what are you working on right now, Casey?
Well, I took a little break because I took a proofreading job, and I decided I needed to make a little money. So I took a proofreading job that turned into a content editing job because the author had never actually had her book proofed or edited at all by an editor. And I thought, when she gave it to me, I said, I don't think your book is ready for a proof yet. So it's ended up turning into this massive editing job, which I've actually enjoyed because she has a great story, and if she'll take some of my suggestions, she could have an amazing story. So that's kind of what I've been working on now, is helping this other author along. And I do have my next novella planned out a little bit in my brain, and I've written a couple chapters, and I'm hoping to get into that closer to the holidays and have the holidays to work through that novella and get it written by, I hope by March is my release date time frame, I hope, but inevitably, I end up pushing that back a couple months every time. So who knows? That's probably what will happen again. But those are the plans. We'll see how they play out.
Now, as far as new releases go, you just released something.
Yeah, I released The Scent of Lilac. I have it, in fact, here it is, Scent of Lilac. And I want to give a shout out to my book editor, my book cover designer is Molly Phipps. Do you guys know Molly?
No, but I need to. That's a beautiful cover.
Can you hold it up closer to the
camera?
camera?
She's awesome. Sure.
Ooh, beautiful.
You see it?
I like it.
And the little girl on the front, you can't really, her eyes are right here. She's one of my daughter's best friends, and she's a beautiful girl. So she was the model. And in fact, there's a picture of her on the inside, but it didn't come out very good in the print version. But boy, the digital version is beautiful. So awesome. You know, if you buy the digital version, you'll see it. But anyway, that's the first novella in my story. It's really a companion novel to Breeder, and I've had a few reviewers tell me they loved this book, but they wish they had read Breeder first. One of a new fan. This was her first encounter with me. Reading this? She read one of my arcs for me to do a review, and she said, "Loved this book so much, but I wish I had read Breeder first because this one really is a companion to Breeder, and you'll enjoy it more if you've already at least read the first full book in the series."
Okay.
That's hard to do when you have a world that you write a lot of books in and then you do companions. I've got a couple as well.
Right.
And I always hesitate when I offer them up to people because I want them to read the books that came before it.
Yeah.
Even though these can stand by themselves, there's so much backstory they're missing.
And I think they can be confused a little bit, about some things in the novella because they haven't read the other books. And so that was her thing. She was like, after I read Breeder, so many things cleared up for me. But the good thing was she said she enjoyed it even before she read Breeder. She enjoyed it as a standalone. So
that's cool.
I was like, well, good. That means people will read it and like it, even if they haven't read my series. Thank goodness. That means I did my job right. So
now, does it give away any spoilers? Because I know with mine, if you read the standalones, there are a few spoilers that you would end up getting if you haven't read the backstories.
Yeah, it gives away nothing major at all, but it does, in my first book, the main character is really struggling with whether she should leave the village or stay in the village. And you obviously know if you read the novella whether she did, whether she left or stayed. So there's like some small things like that. Also, in the first book, in Breeder, when it first begins, they've been taught that there are no other villages left. But after the war decimated the world 107 years ago, that they were the only village to survive.
Okay.
So obviously, if you read the novella first, you're going to find out very quickly that Kate left the village, and she left with some people from another village. So there is that. So they're not; those aren't even major spoilers, but they are tiny spoilers. If you read the novella first.
Okay.
But the nice thing is you can go back then afterwards and say, let's find out about this stuff. Let's go back and find out, why did they think they were the only village, and why did she leave? And you do get, it'll leave you some questions that might make you want to go back and read the first book in the series.
Okay.
And a little curiosity.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what this reviewer said. She said, that book made me want to go and read the first book in your series. And she goes, and now I'm a fan. And I was like, okay, good deal. So.
And the series, the Arrows Flight series it's young adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm looking at your page right now and at the covers, and I love how they all kind of go together here too. They're
yeah, and I guess I should tell you guys that my son is the cover artist for the actual full series.
Really?
Instead of and all of my other novellas are going to be, Molly Phipps is going to do all those covers, but my son, he actually, the very first book, Breeder, which I also have a copy of right here, this one, he actually drew this cover, the whole thing, the font and everything, when he was 14.
Wow.
And so I'm
really cool.
Super proud. I know they're not probably the prettiest, they don't draw people in probably covers, but I will probably never change them because they're sentimental to me that way, And all three of them, he designed all three of them for me when he was, before he graduated from high school. He's 19 now, so he took a few years to do those covers for me.
Well, that's got to be pretty awesome for him too, to be able to see that.
Yeah. And he actually read Breeder. That's the only one he's ever read because he's not a reader. But he was like, I guess I'll read this one so I'll kind of get an idea of what my book covers are all about. So anyway.
No, I really like the...
typical good.
I kind of like and I haven't read them, but I like the plot points that you've brought up so far about your series. And it really... It's not similar to, but it reminds me of another series. It's... by Justin Cronin. I don't know if either of you have ever read him. He wrote a book called The Passage, which is really a pretty fantastic piece of fiction. But it was the same idea where you're in a post-apocalyptic world, and they're living kind of sequestered in this little village, and they think that they're the only ones. And so, I really like that as a jumping off point for, where these characters are going to go and what are they going to do, because you want them to get out of there and you want them to explore, but who knows what they're going to find. So I think that's a really cool thing.
And interestingly, that's a real common topic in the dystopian genre. Places where you think you're the only ones left. Divergent was that same way.
Maze Runner.
I'm trying to think. Yep. The Maze Runner was like that. And a lot of people have told me that my book reminds them of The Giver in a lot of ways, and actually not The Giver so much as there's the second book in the Giver series is called Gathering Blue, and that's the one that a lot of people have said, your book reminds me so much of Gathering Blue. Okay. And for me, that's a real compliment because I loved those books, and Lois Lowry, I think she's amazing, so I was like, cool, I'll take that. And my books also, I love supernatural science fiction stuff. So my books have a supernatural, like superhuman quality to them too, because there's this whole group of boys. They're called the Boys of Eden. And they have superhuman abilities. Okay. But it all naturally, it's not because, it's crazy science fiction stuff or anything. It has to do with nanotechnology. So it's all kind of in a way science fiction, but it could be realistic, at the same time. So there's that whole flavor going on for my sci-fi fans too, that like that part.
I love the dystopian genre. It's so much fun to see how everyone imagines the rebuild of society after just, world wars, just total destruction. And it's all different. Even though there might be similar elements, every single one is so different and so much fun to read.
Right. And like you said, different perspectives of how things could really actually play out one day, because they almost we seem almost like we're at a point where dystopian could become real.
Yeah, this November could really push the scales here on something.
Let me tell you, no politics.
We're scared to be like,
politics.
No matter who you vote for, really, there's a problem. So
I'm telling you, there's no good solution to that election. That's for sure.
It reminds me of that meme, and I think it's Keanu Reeves, and he's got the woe face, and it says, "What if dystopian authors are just submitting
their
plans for world domination?"
Their plans for world domination.
Yeah.
No kidding.
But yeah, you never know. We are definitely at a point in society where it feels like apocalypse is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen afterwards.
Yep.
And it's scary. It's very scary. Now, me personally, I'm voting for the vampires and the werewolves to come out of the woodwork and join society to rebuild. Oh, wait, that's
Save the
day.
That's the next novel coming out, right?
Well, that was the premise of my Chronicles series.
This one's going to be called, your next werewolf book will be called The Little Post-Apocalyptic Werewolf.
Yes. That's it.
Yes.
Saves the day.
I like it.
Is there anything anybody wants to bring up before we close out for the day?
I guess I should mention that I'm going to be having a read-along in the Arrows Flight fan club on Facebook. And it's real easy to find it. Just punch in the Arrows Flight fan club and you'll see all my book covers right there. And we're going to start a read-along on October the 15th, just of that book. And we decided to do that because it is a companion book to The Scent of Lilac, which is my new novella that just came out. So we thought, let's get some people reading Breeder, and hopefully that'll help them navigate them towards the novella if they haven't read it yet.
Awesome. So we'll get it posted. That way people can find you and do the read-along.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll come along. We have several people. Since we started advertising for it, we've probably had 10 or 15 people join the club. So I'm hoping that we're going to have a really good turnout of people reading the book.
Awesome.
And we'll do it. We're going to do it like we did the marathon. So we'll have some games and some discussions, and I'll be there. I'll be a presence there so people can ask me questions and everything.
Are you going to dress up like some of the characters and do live feeds too?
No. I'm not a dressy uppy kind of person. I will say though that when my book came out, I put a poll in the fan club and said I'm going to do I went live for the first time ever and did a live reading from whatever book they voted on. So I put all my books up for a vote and let them vote for which book they wanted me to read. And so I did do a live reading at an after party thing after my lunch party on Band of Dystopian. And that was way fun. So that's cool. Yeah. So I may do a live reading at this. You never know. I may say, you guys want me to read the chapters today? I'll do it. I hate how I sound though.
I'll have to keep my eyes open for that one.
Yeah. You guys can come poke your heads in anyway.
Oh, for sure.
See how things go.
Yeah. I'm intrigued, and I'll tell you what, it's my favorite thing about doing these shows is not only hearing about everybody's really cool books and projects that they have going, is that I learn so much from you other authors about how you're marketing and how you're reaching people and just how you're running your business and your craft. And I don't know, I think you've got a lot of really cool ideas that people are gonna want to hear. So it's been awesome having you on.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And really, you guys might want to check out it's called the Awesome Reading Marathoners. That's the reading marathon group that Sarah Nofke started. Awesome Reading Marathoners. And once your series are done, you can sign up. Katie, are you signed up for a marathon in there?
I might have to check it out. I do have 2 complete series, so it would definitely have material.
Yeah, I'm telling you that, though, I think that the reading marathon was absolutely amazing for me. It helped so much with just connecting with readers and things like that. So, and selling books and getting reviews and everything.
Well, the connecting with readers, that's the important part right there. That's
the
bottom line. A couple of reminders before we end the show. It is still October. October is National Breast Cancer Month, and our host, or our guest from last week, Madison Daniel, is still offering up a match on any sales of his book, Bleed Like Me. So we'll post the link in the bottom for that as well. And Wicked Winter is the anthology that I've submitted a book to. It should be coming out in December, but it's available for pre-order now at 99 cents. And all sales, all proceeds from that book will go straight to the Alzheimer's Association.
Cool.
So just a couple of little promotional things this month. Books for a Cause is the hashtag we're using right now with that.
And I want to give away some paperbacks. So I don't know how we set up giveaways on here, Katie, but I would love to give away some paperbacks to people of kind of a little bit of everything. So if there's a paperback you want to see, maybe we can have some kind of poll, and I'll be sending out some autographed paperbacks to people.
That sounds like fun. How about we set that up on our Spilling Ink Facebook page? We'll get
that would be great.
We'll get a little random contest going and see if we can get some signups for that.
Awesome, cool. Well,
all right, we'll get to it.
Always has been a joy.
Yes, we love having you, Jason. And Casey, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and telling us about your wonderful stories.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was so fun. So
yeah, it's always a good time chatting with authors, and you've been wonderful.
Thanks. I try.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week's Spilling Ink. We will see you back again next week with new authors to introduce you to and new stories to talk about. Talk to you later. Bye.